Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Cayla Craft. She is the host and creator of the Mommy Millionaire Podcast. She focuses on helping women monetize their passions.
Yes, she talked a lot about visualization and the power of her morning routine. And basically, we talked a little bit about, too, how a lot of parents will not put themselves first and fill their own cup first, so then they have less to give. So it's kind of fulfilling yourself, especially in the morning, and then so you have more to give throughout the day.
One of the questions I really wanted to ask her, and I did, was what advice do you give parents who say, you don't understand, I don't have time, I have children? And she hammered us with a beautiful answer. You're not going to want to miss it, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
No. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, host of Mommy Millionaire Podcast, Cayla Craft. How are you doing on this wonderful day?
I am doing amazing. I'm so excited to be on here.
We are so excited to have you and pick your brain, and we want to talk all about your story and how you went from where you were to who you are now. But we always talk about how we get the guests on and the story behind it. So I'm going to kick it to Alan and let Alan tell that story.
Yeah, so we had Chris Harder and Lori Harder on the podcast. Very blessed to have had them on. And
Yes.
I was on Chris's Instagram story, and he was out to dinner. Him and Lori were out to dinner with you, and he referred to you as family. I don't know if you guys are actually related or if he was just referring to the tribe. But like attracts like. Then I went to your page, and I immediately saw that you appear to be quite the superwoman. 3 kids, kind of appear to be doing it all, fitness, the whole thing. And we really want to pull back the curtain on how that's possible so that other people can try to take away from that.
Awesome. I love it. I'm excited to share because that's I feel like my life's mission is to share it all. So
we'll jump right into it. So you were an ER nurse. How did you go from, I guess, what was the initial thought of, wow, maybe I'm not necessarily living my purpose, or maybe I have a higher purpose, or maybe I have a different passion that I want to chase? What was that thought process like? And I'm sure in the beginning you had doubts and fears. So how did you pinpoint exactly what you wanted to do? And then how did you overcome those doubts and fears to just chase your dreams?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have a funny story. I was working as an ER nurse, and my life on the outside looked perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my husband had just bought our second home. I had a 1-year-old, and I was working night shift in the ER. He was working 60 to 70 hours a week for the family business. And, we had money. And we, had amazing friends in our life. We were involved in a great church. Everything looked great. But me and Chase never even got to see each other because we worked opposite schedules. And so it was causing a lot of tension in our marriage. And, my girlfriend said that she had done this cleanse. And I was all about that type of lifestyle. I a former raw vegan person. And so when she said cleanse, I was like, yes, I need to do something because I've been, drinking monster drinks because of my night shifts and I just feel horrible. And I've kind of like lost myself in the fitness journey. Like, even though I was working out all the time, I was just being complacent in everything I was doing. And she said she was doing this cleanse. So I did the cleanse. I lost 11 pounds. And this is the moment I felt like somebody just stuck their hand deep down inside of me and like put the light switch on. And it was like, whoa, like Cayla's back. And I was 23 years old at the time. So young. Okay. And I just was like, it was like I looked at my life through a different lens at this point. I felt amazing. And I was like, dude, like, I'm not going to live like this. If my life looks like this in 5 years, I will not be happy. And so I found out that the cleanse that I had done was a part of a network marketing company. And I decided to do the business. I met the founders of the company and they were just like super rich and super nice. And I was like, yes, I want that lifestyle. And, it was kind of like game on from that point. And I got so much heat from being an ER nurse and like all the other people I was working with in the ER. Like, they talked so much crap about network marketing. My family talked so much crap about network marketing. I mean, you name it. Everybody I came into contact with talked so much crap about network marketing. But I knew the founders of the company and I was like, those people are good people. And I want to be like them. So I'm going to take advice from them. All these other people are broke and unhappy who are talking crap. So
Yes.
I'm not taking advice from these people.
I love that.
And so,
Yeah.
I just went to town and was able to replace my nursing income within 6 months and then didn't quit nursing, which is crazy. It took me a while. I had my second baby. And the thing that made me quit finally was I realized like that she needed me more than I needed to be at work and fulfilling some type of career that was trading time for money. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have that life for my kids. And so I decided I can be a powerful businesswoman at home and be an amazing mom at the same time. And I can't do that being a nurse. I can do that in network marketing. So that's what I did.
I love it. That is a great story.
Yay.
It's amazing to me that, so you had a product that changed your life, and that kind of, I'm reading a book right now by Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold. You may have heard of it.
I love that book.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
So Kevin's reading that as
Yes.
well. I'm not surprised that you've read that book based on the content that I've seen. But the more you're sold on something, the more you're likely to go and sell it because it changed your life first. So you weren't willing to listen to people like the naysayers and stuff. So that's absolutely huge. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, so I had dated an ER nurse, and it's a really difficult lifestyle. Like, me and my ex-girlfriend, we kind of passed like ships in the night as well. How did you kind of overcome that while you were kind of in it?
Well, as soon as I started making money, I went to days. So that was like one thing that changed my life. Right. But you know what I did? Like I would just wanted my new life so bad. I was so sold on my new story. And a lot of people get so sold on everybody else's stories. And I just focused in on what I wanted every single morning. I would wake up before I was a charge nurse. I had to get there an hour before everybody else. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. every day and start doing my sales stuff that I needed to do. I would always listen to a podcast. I'd always fill my mind with amazing stuff. And then I would go into work and get my work done but do it. Like it changed even the way I was working as a nurse. Like I just went 100% in like, how can I be the best leader while I'm here? I just like up leveled my game in every area of my life. And it started to change because people were like, gosh, this is a new Cayla. She's not saying F-bombs every other word. And what really was cool was an EMT walked in and they had known me for years. And they go, Cayla, you're smiling. Like, what happened? And like, why are you happy? And I was like, what? Like, I'm always smiling, And she was like, no, like, I've never seen you smile. You're always extremely stressed. And I was like, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. And so, anyways, it was just, the ER it's a really hard working environment. You become like super jaded. I remember like one time we were doing CPR and like one of my friends, I was doing compressions and she was doing the air and she was eating while we were doing CPR and nobody thought anything of it. She was literally grabbing snacks out of her pocket while we were doing CPR. And I'm like, this is crazy to me. Like, it's just like another day, like another dollar, basically saving a life, but we're not really saving a life.
Yeah, it's a challenging environment. I'm
it
getting all the feels from the stories I used to hear. Keep going, sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, it makes you become so negative in every outlook of your life. And so I knew that in order to become what I wanted to be, I had to stay plugged in to positive people. Like, so anytime I was outside of work, it was like, okay, where can I go and network with amazing people and like just stay plugged into people in my company or like other people that were business owners that were super positive and not jaded yet. And so I was constantly I think people forget that. Like, you think you don't have to change your environment, and sometimes you can't. Like, you have to keep a job to keep paying the bills. But where can you plug in other areas of your life? Because if you don't change your environment, you'll eventually go back to being that old person. So, yeah.
The fact that I just wrote down environment right before you said it, because I wanted to ask you so if you're friends with Chris and Lori, you're in the rooms with people that are very successful. And that's a point that Alan and I have tried to make just many times, because we're lucky enough to pick people's brains like yours and Chris and Lori. And how important do you think it is to be in the rooms with people who, number one, believe in you, number two, have big dreams, and number three, that are not afraid to fail? I always say that you have to watch who you're getting advice from, because a lot of people are afraid to see you fail. But we all know that failure is feedback, and feedback breeds success. Mm-hmm.
I think that it's 100% everything. I mean, you should never be the smartest person in the room.
I love that.
Ever, right? So I always want to be in a room where I can be learning and growing from people and being around people that are going to change my thermostat. I read a book called Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker when I was first getting started in my network marketing journey. And he talks about this whole concept of, if your thermostat is set at making 60 grand a year, you could make 100 grand a year, but eventually you'll self-sabotage if you don't change the thermostat, because the AC will kick on and you'll drop back down to $60,000 a year because you haven't done the work and you haven't conditioned yourself to change. And the only way that you can raise your thermostat, so raise your, financial blueprint, is to be around other people that are like, so me, I'm making a couple $1 million a year. I want to hang out with people that are making $10 million a year, because it's not too far away from me. That's within reach for me. And I need to be hanging out with them, seeing the way their brain works, the way that they talk, the way they interact with people. What are they doing in their fitness, every part of their life. I want to model them. And so that's how my thermostat changes. And that's what you have to change. If you want to, especially if you're an employee, like, you have to change the thermostat, because you have to change, exactly how your mind works. You no longer have to check in with the boss when you're an entrepreneur. You're the boss,
I'm glad that you just mentioned that, because I talk about this all the time. As soon as you're an entrepreneur, lifestyle designer, all of a sudden, it's like, if you're trying to go into work because you have to punch a clock and you're going to get fired if you don't, that doesn't necessarily require self-discipline, because it's not self-imposed. When you're making your own schedule and you do have the financial freedom that you have, all of a sudden, everything you do requires self-discipline. Can you go into a little bit of the transition from, like, being an ER nurse, having to be there at a certain time, versus creating your own sort of lifestyle and, like, your own time clock?
You know what? Yeah, I can. I was just thinking and laughing. I was the worst employee ever. I never showed up on time. I was the worst. Like, I don't know how I didn't get fired. I got written up all the time for eating or doing something. And so when I decided to come home, I was making about $800,000 a year, which is crazy that I waited that long. But it took me so long to overcome this employee mindset. I was so scared that my the check was going to change, and we get paid every week. And so I was like, oh my gosh, the check is going to change eventually. So I need to just keep doing this. And what happened was, year after year, I started to make more and more. And I was like, okay, like, I have to change something within me. I have to learn how to take risk. And one thing I know, when I decided to make that switch from employee to entrepreneur, was this: every single time, like, if I were to be broke, let's say, like, I needed to put food on the table for my 3 kids, I bet on me. I will do whatever it takes to let there be always food on the table, to always have my kids in whatever sport they want to be in. Like, there will never be another option for me. Like, to be broke, like, no, that's just not an option for me. And so I bet on me, and I think about that all the time. Like, you have to take that risk. And when it comes down to it, like, do you believe that you will always be able to provide and support for your family and do the things that you want to do? And deep down, I know I'm capable of doing that. And so I bet on me and I said, I'm done. I'm quitting this nursing job. I know if it comes down to it, let's say the checks change in my network marketing company. Guess what? I know how to do this. I can do it again, or I can start my own company and do whatever I want because I know how to do this. And it was just like, I bet on me. And I say that to myself all the time. Anytime I get scared, it's like, no, you know how to do this. Don't get scared. Like, you're not going into that fear mindset. So you just have to start learning that the biggest risk is you. You're the only variable because everybody else has opportunities out there. They're so abundant and you're the only variable. So are you going to step up and do what it takes and do the things that people will never do? Are you going to be willing to do those things? Because you'll have a life that people will never have. And I know all day long, I'll always do the uncomfortable thing. Always.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So you did a episode on goals and conflict in particular on your podcast. That really resonated strongly with me because you mentioned that you kind of work with a therapist to try to dig deep in your mind to try to figure out what bottlenecks are holding you back in the roots in order to change the fruits type of thing. And you mentioned that your biggest why is now your children. Whereas at the beginning it was kind of like you wanted a yacht, but now you realize you get seasick type of thing. Which I thought was hilarious because I also want a yacht, but maybe that'll change over the years. But you, I guess, in this conversation you had with this particular person, you basically told everyone on the podcast that you were kind of associating deep in your mind that more success would equal less time with your kids, which is what matters to you most. Can you go into like how you figured out the root cause of your own sabotage? And I think that's kind of what we want to do on this podcast just in general is just figure out what the root is so that we can change the fruit.
Okay. So I grew up in I don't know how much of the podcast you've listened to, but I grew up in a very unstable environment. And, my mom was a single mom for part of the time and she worked, 12-hour shifts doing hair and my dad was in jail and I would take care of my little brother who's 17 months younger than me. And, I found church. And so that literally, it saved my life because it kept me out of trouble. And what I realized was back then, I always wanted to take care of my brother. I didn't want him to get hurt or anything. I didn't want him to get involved in the wrong crowd because where we lived, it was a very bad part of town. And so somehow in that, they did some muscle testing on me. And somehow in that time frame from when I was 5 to 10 years old, I started to just have that belief because my mom was gone all the time and my brother was kind of having a lot of issues. And I started to correlate that. So my mom was gone and my brother had issues. So that was what was happening. And so I always thought if I'm gone and away from my kids, then my kids are going to be bad. I correlated those two and that's not true at all because look, my mom was gone and look at me. I still turned out awesome.
Yeah,
whatever.
That was just a story that your subconscious linked up.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And I also realized too that I'm not really away from my kids. I might be on the phone, or doing something like that, but I'm there for everything. And my kids get to have more experiences than most children because they are privileged now because I've worked so hard. And so it was just a story that I had to change. I had to rewrite the story for myself and not make 10-year-old Cayla make the decisions about how I'm going to build my business any longer. But the 31-year-old Cayla that has all these life experiences and knows what her children need and all that kind of stuff. And so ever since I had that shift, it's it's just changed the game for me.
I love the fact that you're so open and honest about having children and how important they are to you. Now, Alan and I have a lot of people that message us and they want help and they want to change and they want to make changes. And one of the things that I get from a lot of people is, I have kids, you don't understand, I can't do that. What advice, so say somebody reached out to you and said that, what advice would you give to them? Because you're walking proof that doesn't matter, right? So what would you say to them? And what tips can you give people that might be struggling with the not spending enough time with their children, like you said that, you had those thoughts as well?
And this is where a little tough love comes in because this is honestly the reason why I started Mommy Millionaire because I was so over hearing this excuse. Your kid, the fact that you have kids should be enough reason why you shouldn't be where you are right now. Like they are the number one reason why I am so successful and why I continue to win every day is because they're watching me. So I want them to know that they are winners and they will be champions in their life. And so I need to be a champion. And I just, my son, he's just watched a YouTube video on a hoverboard because he wants to buy a hoverboard. And he found me on the sidebar. He saw Cayla Craft, Mommy Millionaire. And he goes, Mom, that video only has 3 thumbs up. You suck. And I was like, oh, wait, first of all, don't talk to your mom like that. And second of all, I was like, I didn't really try hard on my YouTube. I just put a couple videos up. It wasn't like a thing. And he was like, well, why wasn't it a thing? Like, you should, like, this person has 2 million views and he's 8. And I was like, I don't know. I just didn't. And then it made me convicted right then and there. I'm like, I'm training this kid to win. And so he just called me out and I was like, all right, I'm going to step it up with my YouTube game. And so he saw, like, we just hired a videographer and like, he's seeing that, like, I'm not going to be complacent. And I don't know if like network marketing would have never came into my life. I probably like would be a complacent person. So that's why I tell those people, like, your kids are freaking watching you. You want them to be complacent and always have excuses and continue to do what you're doing. But if you want them to be winners, you need to step it up, you know?
I'm going to be very open and honest here. A good friend of mine is struggling right now, and he reached out to me, and I said, look, if your son was living the life that you're living right now, would you be happy? Like, do you think he would be happy in your... And he said no, and it's like, sometimes you just want to grab these people by their necks and shake them and say, like, look, this is you have one fucking life, and you need to do this now. You need to start making changes, or you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
I get fired up,
And a lot
Cayla.
of people, no, I know, I love it. I do too. So, a lot of people just have limiting beliefs about what they're capable of. And it starts at a super young age. And if you don't have, so that's awesome that you're calling him out on it. Continue to call him out on it. Because sometimes that's just what we need. We need to know that there's a cheerleader in our corner that's not going to let us quit on ourselves. And that's where therapy comes in. I mean, people like, I think everybody should work with a therapist. I also work with an energy worker that he does like muscle testing and he'd be like, okay, like you're struggling with forgiving this person. No, he won't say this person, but he's like, do you need to forgive somebody because you're off balance? I'm like, yes. So, I mean, start investing in yourself. If you have no money right now, I don't know, find the money, like pull out PayPal credit and like find the money to hire somebody to get over your limiting beliefs with you and just like get to work, because a lot of that is just holding you back.
So one of the things that I constantly bring to the listeners, and I want your take on this as well, because I'm going to ask you what sort of mentors you've had in your life. One of the things that will eliminate limiting beliefs, in my opinion, quickest is getting around people that are super successful and way ahead of you, and then realizing what you said at the beginning of this podcast, which is these are amazing people. Because I think we grow up with this notion a little bit of like, oh, those are all greedy, horrible, awful, wealthy people. What a dick, right? Driving that Lamborghini type of thing. And it's like, that's when we're such kids, we're kind of demonizing something. And what I always try to say is we're not going to pursue something, with courage that is demonized, especially by those we look up to most. So when you get around people who are wealthy and you start realizing like these are incredible people who are doing incredible things, it kind of gets rid of a lot of those limiting beliefs. So what is your take on mentors, the power of mentors? And then do you have any mentors in your life right now that are just like helping you level up like exponentially?
Yeah. And I think you can have mentors in your life, but you have to do the work on your financial blueprint if you want anything to change. And so first ask yourself the question, like, what did my parents say about money? What did my aunts and my grandparents say about money? What do my friends that are in my life right now, how do they talk about money? Write all of those things down and ask yourself, do you believe any of those things? Because if you hear those things all the time, and a lot of the things that you've heard from your parents, your grandparents are in your subconscious mind, you have to get rid of those. You have to reframe the story every single day and then tell yourself what you believe about money. Because a lot of times we have these subconscious thoughts that we don't even know that we're even thinking, but we're thinking them. So first do that, because a mentor is not going to do anything for you unless you've uncovered that. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, T. Harv Eker. I've never met the guy, but I think I've read his book like 30 times. I tell everybody I come into contact with, read Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. It's going to change your life. And some people, you think, oh, well, I don't have enough money to invest in a coach right now. And so that's like your number one excuse. First of all, podcasts are free. I can get that book for $9 on Amazon, and that's your mentor. Some of those authors and speakers that are not even alive, like Jim Rohn, I listened to his CD over and over, Zig Ziglar. All those people are my mentors. I've never met them, but they've had the biggest impact on my life and the way that I think about things. And they were all free YouTube videos, so I think be resourceful, first of all, when you're trying to find a mentor, because, and then right now, I'm working with, Yahya Bakar. I hired him because I started my podcast and I wanted to become a better speaker. And so I hired him. Love that guy. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, but he's really great with just like speaking and, I just love it, and selling. I'm trying to think who else. I always think too, like another mentor in my life is Jesus, even though he's been dead for a very long time. Every parable in the Bible, it's so like amazing in real life. If you think about it, always putting others before yourself. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll always have what you want.
A Zig Ziglar quote. I love that. Or is that from?
And it's in the Bible,
Exactly.
So, so people ask me what my favorite book is. That's my all-time favorite book, because there's so many stories about how to just serve people. And
Jim Rohn says it's a great textbook.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a huge, we're very common on that. Jim Rohn I have a playlist on my YouTube of all his best stuff, and I listen to it literally like every week.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. See, and he's a mentor. So I would say those are probably my mentors. And then of course the founder of my company, her name is Kathy Coover. She's been hugely instrumental in my life, as well.
I want to pick your brain. So when we sat down and talked to Chris, I listened to his podcast beforehand. He was talking about his morning routine, having protected time and things like that. I wanted to get your take on what your morning routine consists of and whether you have one or not. And if you do, what are the benefits that you've seen? Because I've been doing it for like a week now, and it has totally changed my mindset completely.
Okay, it's funny because I think Chris and my husband Chase started the morning routine at the same time.
Okay.
They went to an event, a network marketing event years ago, and somebody got up there and talked about being the 5 a.m. club. And Chase came home and he shared the whole entire thing with me about 5 a.m. club. You get up, you do your gratitude, you journal, you do all these things. And so ever since then, Chase didn't start doing it, but I started doing it. And I get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I have 3 little kids. And so I know people listening in with kids, that's always an excuse, right? You're like, I stayed up late, the kids wouldn't go to bed, or they always get up early, like whatever, like get up at 5 a.m. And I journal, I visualize for at least an hour. That is the most important thing to me, is to visualize my life, what I want, what I see for myself, what I see for people on my team. I visualize it for them. And I harness that feeling of how it feels to have that life. And first thing in the morning, if I don't do it like this this past weekend, for example, I slept in, we were out of town and I slept in and I totally didn't do my morning routine. And I was completely like so lax both days. And my body needed it. But like at the same time, like you can tell a difference. Like I was not motivated to do anything at all over the weekend. And that's not normally how I live. But so yeah, there's a huge difference. You've got to set boundaries around. I have major freaking boundaries around everything in my life. But like my kids know, if you wake up and mommy's still doing her stuff, I'm in a certain room in the house, and they know, like they can come in there and give me a kiss, but like they just go and get a book and they start, doing whatever they're gonna do. But they know mommy's doing that. And I have an 8, 6, and a 3-year-old. And even the 3-year-old, he knows. He comes and gives me a kiss and he goes and lays on the couch. And so, yeah, so that's just like you have to talk and communicate with people, and, the people in your life that are important to you, tell them, this is what's up. This is so important to me right now. Like, please help me protect this space,
That is so, so good, because all of our listeners many of our listeners will eventually be parents, right? So you obviously cater to, moms who are trying to do it all. And I think there's a culture, and correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit where it's like martyrdom a little with moms. Like you're always giving, but you never fill your own cup type of thing. Is that kind of how would you frame that to a future parent who's a listener right now or someone who is a parent right now? Like, what is your take, your philosophy, as Jim Rohn would say, on like being a mom and how you have to fill your own cup in order to have more to give?
Oh my gosh. You know what? That is so my biggest pet peeve, because I always see these moms post about how much wine they have to drink at night after the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm like, seriously right now, why did you even become a mom? And then I'm like, okay, wait, Cayla, don't be judgmental. Like, chill out. This is your life's mission, you know? Yeah. And it drives me crazy because, you know, I just feel like as a mom, I am so snappy. I am so just like temperamental, not as loving if I don't fill my cup up first. So like, I just am not like, but when I get my morning routine and I do my visualization, I do my journal, I do my gratitudes, starting my morning off like that, I am a completely different mom. I mean, I'm one that's just like coming from a loving space and not snappy. Like, you know, so that's also probably why my kids like, no, leave her alone in there.
It's out of fear.
Right. But you know what? It's just like, you get to create the life that you love. And most people, they want to be a victim. They're so married to their victimhood. Oh, I have 3 kids, so I can't do this. I have 3 kids, so I can't do that. It's like, no, I have 3 kids, so I can do this. I have 3 kids, and so I'm choosing to do this. You know, like all of these, just change your words and change your whole entire life. But so hopefully that just helps people. I don't know.
No, it definitely does, Cayla. I'm actually going to set an intention right now. Kevin and I were talking prior to this podcast, and you may have noticed my energy was a little bit off at the beginning because I've just been spread so thin. The analogy I use is too little butter spread across too much bread. We've been just getting after it lately. Yeah. And I don't think I've been doing a very good job of filling my own cup first. So you've inspired me so much today. I'm really, especially when it comes to my morning routine, because I have a very strong morning routine where I have a flashcard. I write everything out. I do gratitude stuff. And I just want you to know that you've definitely inspired me, because Chris said the same thing. And after today, just being so spread thin and realizing that I'm not going to be able to give my best to those I care about if I don't fill my own cup first. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And just something else to encourage you with that. It's like, things that change our life aren't something monumental. Like they're not like some big, huge thing that happens that you do. It's the little simple things that make you different, that make you stand out above, because nobody knows. Like I wouldn't have known that you didn't do your morning routine or whatever. Like people don't know, but you know. And so once you want to like step up your game and up level your life, you have to live into integrity with yourself. And so if you say, I'm going to have a morning routine, and I'm also going to get on a podcast and tell people that they have to have a morning routine, I need to be doing all of those things. Exactly. Right. And if you don't, that you're out of alignment there, and you're not like, you're going to feel out of whack, and you're going to see, I have so much more energy, even though I'm spread, I'm doing all these things. I have so much more energy because I'm living in an alignment, you know?
Yeah, I feel a little off today, and I'm gonna get back on. I really appreciate that. That's good.
Cayla, so I heard a quote, and the second Alan and I heard it, he saw me writing it down. He's like, "Oh, you're writing that down, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." "You are the best relationship you will ever be in" is a quote that I heard on one of your podcast episodes. And touching on what we were just talking about, how once you realize that you have this one life and the possibilities really are endless if you're willing to consistently put in hard work, smart work, and visualize your future. What does that mean to you when you say that? You are the best relationship you will ever be in. And how can we show others that, like, you're not just gliding through life? Like, you really can make something of this. Whatever you want, as long as you're willing to face the music. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes it's super hard. The feedback sucks, but so doesn't being less than you could be.
I love that. Get me fired up. So, you know, the way that I came up with that was when I first started in my network marketing journey. I told you guys that, you know, me and my husband used to fight all the time before network marketing. Well, then when I started network marketing, we fought even more. And honestly, the only reason why I built my business was to prove him wrong.
Wow.
And
Wow, very honest.
Yeah, that was extremely honest. I did not expect that.
You are super honest on your social media. Just so everyone knows, on her podcast, she's super honest. Yeah, and keep going.
So, and I'm honest about this because I talk with women or some men that will say, well, I can't do this because my spouse isn't supportive. And I'm just like, no, like that's the reason why you do it. Like, no, right? And so some marriage counselors probably don't want to listen into this one, but this is what worked for me. It was like, I told Chase, I'm like, I have to do this for myself. Like, I have to prove that I can do this. And he'll tell you this now, he was the most unsupportive spouse. I mean, like, and I wish he could be on here because then he could tell you he's awesome now. But, the first 2 years it was like hell. Okay. I mean, it was really bad. And what I had to realize was like, what do you think about yourself, Cayla? Chase is saying, these things about you, but what do you think about you? Well, I think I'm a good person. I think I'm helping a lot of people. And I think if I don't do this, I'll never be happy. And so it was realizing in that shift that the most important opinion is the one you have of yourself in the mirror.
Yep.
And I focused in on that every day. What do you think about yourself? No matter what anybody else is saying. Because, everybody else thought I was crazy. And then but sometimes you can escape other people. I couldn't escape my husband. And, I would just always constantly be telling myself what I thought I was worth. And I was worth so much more than, what other people were saying, or maybe what he was saying, or maybe what my subconscious was saying. I knew that I just needed to love myself every single day. And so I looked in the mirror. I would start off my day looking in the mirror and saying, Cayla, I love you. I love you. So going into and I still do it to this day. Going into your day like that, knowing I love myself. I love myself. I think I'm amazing. And it's not like that fake, confidence. It's like, I love myself. I know that I'm going to make mistakes, but I trust the choices that I make. And I know that wherever I go, God is. And so I am a completely 100% supported person, no matter what is going on outside around me. And a lot of times we look for that validation from outwards, from other people. And you're constantly going to be disappointed. You're constantly going to feel like you're not good enough. You're constantly going to ask yourself and question and doubt, is this business right for you? Because you're looking for validation from your customers, from, the people that you love. And guess what? The only person that validates me is me. And that's the level you need to get on, because every single day, why does it even matter? Anything that you're doing in life, if you don't love yourself. And so I started to go forward with that. Like, that thing is like, I don't care about anything else in my life except loving myself every single day. And when I did that too, it was like, gosh, I was bringing in all these people that were just freaking incredible people in my life, because I knew how to treat myself right. And so I was bringing in and attracting people that knew how to treat themselves right too. They didn't have low standards for their life. They had high freaking standards. And so my team started to grow, and it was like, woo, we were off to the races. So the law of attraction is always at play, whether you believe in it or not. If you don't love yourself, you're going to constantly be attracting in needy, insecure people. And there's nothing wrong with those people. They're all on their own journey. But where I wanted to go in my business, I needed to attract in people that loved themselves. Because if you love yourself, you have high standards. You tolerate nothing but the best.
My goodness, you won't see it because you can't see us right now, but Alan and I looked at each other in the middle of that, and that hit me right in the feels, because that was just truth on top of truth on top of truth. So thank you so much for going deep into that topic, and that was an excellent answer.
Yay. Awesome.
So you mentioned that you had a really hard time. So Kevin and I talk about this all the time, growing pains. We actually just did an episode on it this past week, yesterday.
Yes.
Last night. And whenever you're changing a lot and growing a lot, and you talk about this a lot on your podcast, visualize the life that you want and then set goals that make you stretch into them, right? So you're growing a lot, changing a lot. And that comes with, what we refer to as growing pains, especially when it comes to your social circles and what comes along with that, and kind of fearing no judgment. You mentioned that you had a big struggle at the beginning of your drastic transformation within your relationship. Now, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but a lot of people, I think, struggle when they're changing a ton, because the foundation that relationship was originally built on is now being a little bit shaken up because one person is changing so much. How did you get through that?
Well, one of my core values was my marriage. And I was 100% committed to my marriage at any cost. And so divorce was never an option for me. And so people like, you just got to decide. And I'm not saying divorce is bad, because I have lots of friends that they get a divorce and they're so much happier. I'm like, good for you, right? But for me, that wasn't an option. Like, that wasn't an option on the table. And so I was 100% committed to having both, to having a successful business and a good marriage. And so, anyways, you just have to decide what your core values are. And if you're out of alignment, then get it right. If marriage isn't important to you, or having a good relationship isn't important to you, then get out of the relationship. I think it's very, everything's kind of gray and you have to do what's right for you, because again, the most important relationship is with yourself. And so for me, that's just kind of how I live my life. And I mean, you've heard me talk about the core values, like that's just like important to me. And so, any decision I decide to make, it's like, is this helping or hurting, where I'm going? And if it's, no, then I'm not going to do it. So there were certain things that while I was building my business, I couldn't do, because I'm like, well, if I do that, this is going to affect my marriage in a negative way. So I'm going to say no to that. So I learned to be very resourceful and to build a business that protected both of those things. And so people just, sometimes they look at it and they're like, oh, well, I want to do it the way Alan is doing it. And if I can't do it that way, then it's not going to work. Well, you need to figure out the way that it works for you and get freaking creative. So I don't know if that makes sense.
That does. Get creative. Whenever you have goals in conflict, I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when you have goals in conflict, there is a way. There's always a way. You just got to find it. And I love that you commit 100%. You burn your boats. You take the island. And that's definitely the reason why you're still married today, is the fact that like you committed 100% to your marriage. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So congratulations for that, because a lot of people, were not able to commit 100% and eventually, ended up not married because of that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cayla, do you mind going into... So I've tried to explain how to visualize things for people, like visualize your dream life. When you wake up, what's the view? Who's next to you? All these things. Can you go into a little bit of detail about how to visualize, and then you can't fake it, right? You cannot fake the visualization. You actually have to believe that you're going to get what you visualize. So can you talk a little bit about the power of self-belief, and how do you flex that muscle? A lot of us are born into different environments, and I did not have any self-belief a year ago. This person that you're talking to is a completely evolved person. I'm not the same person I was, so it's a much different life here. And I wish I knew this a lot earlier, obviously, but how do you get somebody to believe in themselves when they don't? And what would you say to them, to create specific visions?
So one thing that I do with my clients and then with myself is I always ask myself, in 5 years, what do I want my life to look like? And I write it out. So I say, how do you wake up? Where are you waking up? What do you have for breakfast? Who are you hanging out with at breakfast? And then where are you going after breakfast? So like literally like design your whole entire day. You have all the time, all the money in the world. What are you doing in 5 years?
Love that.
And so when you write it out, it helps, because it makes you get way more creative, especially when you're writing it like hour by hour, right? Like this is what I'm doing at this time. And then you just start thinking about it in your head. I close my eyes and I just go there. I mean, like, in 5 years, where I want to be is in Spain with my kids and my husband, and, just enjoying our summer vacation, because my kids aren't back in school yet. And so I always visualize, like today, it's somewhere different than it's going to be in 3 weeks, because my kids are going to be back in school. And so the 5 years will look different. What does it look like? Because, my kids are going to be in junior high. And what does that look like throughout the day? What am I doing? And so it's constantly like, I know exactly how it feels. And I know that Cayla in 5 years is a different person, and she feels a different way. She walks in a different way. She talks in a different way. She loves in a different way. And I have to visualize who that Cayla is, because right now, today, if I want to be that person in 5 years, I got to show up as that person today. And it's just so powerful. And so I was in the sauna this morning for an hour, just visualizing it for an hour. And I do something like that because I can't have my phone in there. You're kind of like secluded. And so you have to like force yourself to take that time. And I just tell people to do that. I mean, anytime throughout the day, anytime you get any doubt or anything, it's like, go back to that visualization, because you're probably coming from a bad energy. And once you visualize and you get that feeling again, you have positive high vibes again. And so you're going to start, being able to be more effective in whatever it is that you're doing.
Cayla, you talk about the importance of solitude on your podcast, and I am such a huge proponent of solitude. I mean, I literally have earplugs in a dark room reading books by myself on a Friday night. I'm that guy, right? So you just talked about being in a sauna alone, visualizing for an hour. Like, honestly, I truly believe, this quote of like, it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. In other words, those moments where you're just completely visualizing that bright effing future, especially when things are dark in the moment, that creates the life that you eventually, lead into. And so I believe that a lot of people are spending a ton of time on social media, texting, emailing, direct messaging, and in person with people, and not nearly enough time just alone with you. So to piggyback on the you are the best relationship you will ever have, in other words, your relationship with yourself, what is your take on solitude and the importance of it?
Okay, this is interesting because for years I was trying to run for myself, and I would do anything but be alone. And a lot of people listening in, you might be in that same space because you don't want to deal with the demons within. You just so you fill your space up with everything but being alone. And I talked to all these people and I hired all these coaches, and they're like, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to slow down. And I'm like, that is the worst freaking advice. Did I not just tell you I want to make $10 million a year? Like, I'm not slowing down. And, but it was kind of like, okay, Cayla, if everybody here is telling you to slow down, like you need to take the medicine and realize that these people, like, again, I'm not the smartest person in the room, so you should probably take the advice. And so I finally did. Yeah, I finally did. And what I found was all of this stuff and that I had to work through, but I had to work through that to go to this next level of that my life was calling me to. And, it was the best thing. I'm making more money. I'm having better relationships with people. There's all these things that are happening now, because I got quiet.
Getting invited to podcasts.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in, sorry.
But so now what I do is I schedule time every single week to be alone, and I have it on my calendar. I have a couple employees or 3 employees that work for me, and it's that's my time alone. Don't text me. Don't even entertain, because it's I still want to fill up that time. I'm like, no, that's my quiet time. And so I still do that because I know it's so important. All of your answers that you need about your life are within. That's what you have to realize. Mentors are great. Being around other great people are great. But you're the best mentor in your life. Your thoughts create your reality. And so you need to get your thoughts right all the time and always be questioning what you're believing in your mind and taking the time to ask yourself, what does my soul want to tell me today? What is it that my soul needs to do today? And I freaking love alone time. Once I get into it, I'm like, yes, I see all of these things that are coming out that people need to hear. And that's why some people have told me oh, in the last year, your content has been life-changing for me. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I slowed down. I got quiet and I slowed down and all that stuff is coming from within.
I think that's the way you just said it makes so much sense to me. The whole way you just framed that makes so much sense. I feel like I just had a breakthrough in that moment because I'm always trying to do something. Always. I'm always trying to be productive. And sometimes I think it's to my own detriment when I'm sleeping 3 hours a night because I've been up working all night.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I get burned out.
You were trained as a young kid, whatever your first job was, that you traded time for money, right?
Yes.
So we started to equate in our minds more effort equals more money equals the life that we want, right?
Yes.
And so you have to make that switch. More effort doesn't equal more money. That's not the truth.
More leverage does.
Well, yeah, but also just being. So it's a knowing that you are going to always be supported and that you'll always have the life that you believe that you can have. And it's that knowing, and literally opportunities will come your way.
I appreciate that. I needed that.
You start working less, and you start being who you are more, and more people are going to come into your life that are going to change the game in whatever you're doing.
Interesting. On the day-to-day, do you feel very at peace? Because it's a lot. Like you do a lot, Cayla, right? Yeah. So it's like if you are fully at peace, I need to figure out your Zen techniques, because it seems like you're always go, 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 but it seems like you're also very in the moment.
It's a constant work in progress. I am so not perfect. There's days where I'm like, I'm stressed out of my mind. And then it's always like, because I have those tools in my tool belt now, it's like, why are you feeling stressed? Like, you're always supported. Like, God is wherever you are. So why are you feeling the stress right now? And then it's just like a quick, like, I always breathe to get into the moment. Like before I did this podcast, I do like really breathing, grounding techniques to get there. Because I've been where you're at, like literally burning the candle at both ends. And you always think, well, when I get to this place, when I'm making this amount of money, then I'm going to not work this much. And it's not true, because it's ingrained in you. You like to work. And so you'll continue to do that, and you'll continue to not be happy. Not saying that you're not happy, but, you have to realize that, like, it's just not, it doesn't equal, more work doesn't equal what you want.
Right in the feels, Cayla. Right in the feels.
Yeah, right in the feels for sure.
So, I mean, it's a constant work in progress. I'm always like, that's why I do the podcast, because I'm constantly sharing what's working, because it's always changing. But also having people in my life, like some of my best friends that I let speak life into me, they're also huge game changers, like amazing people, super, super successful, will be like, you haven't been spending alone time. Because they know that's what I struggle with.
Yep.
And they'll call me out on it. Or even my husband will now, because he's completely on this evolvement train now too. And so he'll call me out on it. He's like, listen, like, here, you need some alone time. I'm like, thank you.
Evolvement train. I like that.
Yes.
That is something I will definitely be using, and I will try to remember you were the first one who said it.
Well, you know what? Because I think about it like this in relationships, like either it's friendships or, maybe you're with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And, sometimes we're on different train tracks. And especially if you're just dating somebody, if you're on different train tracks, don't even go there. You got to be on the same train track. You got to be on the same train track, because you're going to spare yourself from so much pain, and make space for the right person to come into your life when you're on the right train track. Because then that other person that's evolved, that's on the same, that wants the same things as you, is going to be on the same train track. Your trains are going to meet eventually.
What are your key indicators of being on the right train track? So I tell Kevin all the time, I feel very on point. I feel very on purpose. Those are the kind of the terms that I use. But for you, like, what are an indicator that you're on the right train track?
Oh gosh. I mean, for me, I'm always reevaluating what I'm doing, and reflecting back on how the day went. Where did I fail? Where can I get better? And also, like, because I have such a hard time with relationships, and it's something I'm working on, like relationships and friendships, because I just like to work, and I tend to put people on the back burner. And I found, oh my gosh, like I really love people, and I need to make them more of a priority in my life. And so I schedule time in for everything that's important to me. Otherwise I won't do it. And so always asking yourself, what's important to me? Like, and so 2017 and 2018, making relationships and lasting friendships was very important to me. So I'm constantly like setting goals for myself around that area. And I'm constantly putting things into my life where it's like, this friendship can get better. Let's go on this trip together or whatever. Because that's really important to me. And what's important to you is always going to be changing. And so always asking yourself, what's important to me now? And then putting into practice like those things to make sure that that's a top priority.
So we have a few more minutes. I want to ask you the question that I ask every guest. I asked Lori, I asked Chris. I hope they didn't tell you. So you will be surprised, but I have a feeling I do know where this answer will go. Cayla, what do you hope to accomplish before you die?
Oh, gosh, I did not know you were going to ask that.
Ah, yes.
Okay. Oh, man, this is hard. There's so many things I want to accomplish. And I'm always just thinking like, what is God going to say when it's my time to go? Like, and I just want him to be proud of me and like know that I used up all of the talents and abilities that he gave me. And so I think I don't care if people remember who I am. I just want to know that I did a good job for God. And also, I just want to leave an impact with people. Like, I just want to know, I don't want them to even remember my name. I just want them to remember how they felt and feel empowered after, spending time with me to go and follow their dreams. And so that's the most important thing to me, is just that I see more people like in the world. Like I have a goal of reaching 1 million people by 2020 with the podcast and with the live events that I'll be doing, just to see more people like stepping into their purpose unashamed. And so I mean, I just want to I can't tell you what I'll be doing after 2020 because I'm so focused on 2020. But I just, for right now, it's just massive impact for me, and like making sure that people, go and get what they want and stop caring about what people think.
I think that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. You're absolutely doing that with us and everyone that we have the privilege to touch on this podcast, and all the listeners who are listening to you right now. Definitely, you're having that impact. And from the episodes that I listened to of your podcast, you're definitely, getting people to fear less judgment and to be, I believe you used the word unashamed when you chase your dreams. Because honestly, Kevin and I say this all the time, like you being less is helping no one, especially not you. And so you did an Instagram live right before this where you basically said, I know it seems contradictory, but you need to set huge goals and stretch and challenge yourself while simultaneously being and enjoying the moment and being happy. So that's so awesome. So I also have a question that I ask, or I'm trying to set an intention to ask every guest. And this one is kind of similar a little bit to what Kevin asked, but a little different. So I believe that the deepest part of us is the part of us that is constant, unwavering. I have a necklace that I wear, chain, North Star, the truest part of ourselves. What part about you never changed?
My love for God. That's always, that always brings me back to my faith. It's the most important thing to me. And it's unwavering.
I love that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
All right, Cayla, so we're running out of time. I want you to plug where people can listen to your podcast, where people can find you on Instagram, where people can find and go to the events that you're setting up, and all of that good stuff. I want you to throw yourself out there.
Mastermind coming up.
All right. Yay. I am. So Mommy Millionaire Podcast, and I'm Cayla.Craft on Instagram, and it's Cayla with a C. And I'm having my first ever live event in November in Newport Beach. And it's going to be an amazing mastermind weekend with a bunch of amazing women that are business owners, entrepreneurs that are going to come together. And we're all going to work on each other's businesses and really take action right then and there that weekend. It's going to be an event like no other. So freaking excited about it. So that's what I have going on. And I can't wait to hopefully help some of your audience with Mommy Millionaire stuff.
Well, I know for a fact you added a massive amount of value. I took away so much, and I know the listeners will as well. And if you're listening to this, guys, you should definitely check out her podcast. Clearly, she knows what she's talking about. She has a great mind. She has so much value, and she's living her purpose. So if that says anything, I think that you will hopefully gain a lot of fans from this as well.
Cayla, I took 2 pages worth of notes. Thank you so much. We learned so much from you. And also, I want you to know that behind us, we have a whiteboard. So for our YouTube following, it says Cayla Craft, Mommy Millionaire Podcast, and we have your Instagram handle written out as well. So you will see teaser clips, call himself a speecher. Yeah. Teaser clips coming through our Instagrams, shouting you out. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, you guys.
Thank you.
Hope you have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye. C-R-A-F-T. C-A-Y-L-A. Put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. You know? I can't. Because I'm a bitch.
Well, right.
You're not gonna say it, but you do agree.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
A little bit.
I just think it's.
Do you agree a little bit? Would you say?
That you're a bitch.
Yeah.
No.
Like out of 10, what would you say?
Soft.
Out of 10, though. That's not a rating. It's gotta be a number out of 10.
Out of 10, soft. You fucking.
Oh, dude,
Maybe I need a little coffee.
Yeah, hammer some coffee. Are you a little tired?
Yeah.
Run down. That's why at the gym today I was struggling.
Stay where you are.
I like turtles.
I like turtles.
I like turtles.
My 3 biggest fears.
I want to eat your toes.
Stuck on this podcast with you 3 times. Fucking with you.
Ouch. I can't stop moving. Got them feels. Camera's on?
Which one am I? One? Yeah, it is.
Oh, who fucking knows, man, honestly. I think you're number 1. What does it take to be number 1? 2 is not a winner and 3 nobody remembers. Remember that song? What does it take to be number 1? Hey, 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 hey. Talking about running your mouth like you know me. That's the only part I know.
Kevin is scared of rejection, folks.
FaceTime audio is this one.
Yeah. that's FaceTime. Maybe, yeah.
I got these fat fingers.
These fat fucking, your fingers are too fat to dial.
I'm fucking it 100%.
Alright.
Like yourself. I'm just in the feels right now. I'm in
Feels.
Fuck. Reflection. Are you comfy or no? I can't tell. But are you just drooling all over me?
You on the podcast? Are you on the podcast? Remember how bad you wanted it before you had it. This is what it takes. We're crawling through the mud, getting to the top of the mountain. None of this rhymes. I'm the fucking worst. Positive self-talk. I think it's
No.
Shiloh,
Come here.
Come here. Alright, you ready to do the intro?
Yeah.
We only could do that because we had it already done.
Alright, what's up? And that's why I fell back to my training. Well, my God. Of the growth, and now we're going to do a full one about...
Right.
We'll do...
Thinking of the trick of my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together make the sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so exciting. Sky rockets in flight.
Alright, ready? Interesting.
Have you ever seen someone this
Just pit stains, man.
Are they bad? Oh, Jesus.
I hate them. I hate mine. I hate sweating. I don't like the summer.
It's these fucking heat
No, it's
lights.
not,
We
man.
might as well be chickens.
What?
Like under heat lights?
Like dead chickens?
Like eggs? Like with the chicken?
Dead chickens?
No.
So this is
You know the heat lamps that
Cayla
like, keep the chickens warm?
real intro.
He doesn't care.